This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about science, culture, and tech. This week, Aaron asked Joey about how to dress for success.
Woo! And I said, darling, you sound like a Joey tonight.
Baby, hear me tonight, 'cause this Aaron is just so right. I'm not going to do the rest. My voice is trash. I'm sick. This is what an Aaron sounds like.
And this isn't what an executive producer and dancing queen Jess Vander sounds like, because she's not here.
She'll be back, guys. Don't worry.
She shall return.
Yes.
Aaron,
yes.
We just had a whole conversation, and now we're going to have it again.
Yes. Yes. I love that in preparing for the show, we get Alex being like, guys, you're doing a podcast and we're not recording it. So I'm going to jump to it because I do want to have this conversation. Just invite everybody in. So, dear listeners, the question that I have for Giuseppe today is, how do you dress for success?
Well, you start in your birthday suit, and then
that makes sense. Yeah.
And then you put clothes on top of it, and then you just win.
Yeah, that's it. We are the opposite of Charlie Sheen winning. Yeah. We are the rest of us winning.
All right, do you want to do the wrap up corner now? Because I think we yeah.
I think we nailed it. Yeah.
I mean, I know from having known you now for 9 years, I believe.
This is true.
Yeah. We both struggled with this in different ways at different points. For me, it was always a question, I think, of like class struggle, class transitions, and discomfort in spaces and clothing and presentation that felt I don't know whether like dishonest or it just didn't feel natural. And so for a long time it was like, well, I'm just gonna wear jeans and a t-shirt because like that's what people wore when I was growing up, and like that's who I am, and like the evolution of that over time was like, oh, there are other things I like, and how do I want to represent, and becoming more comfortable in exploration and presentation through clothing. To be clear, would not say that I'm as my mom would say, a fashion plate. I don't even know where that term comes from.
I love that. I don't know what it means, and I love it. I mean, I know what it means, context clues, but yeah.
All right. Like, what are you, a fashion plate? Or like, oh, you look like like it can be used both positively and negatively.
Love it. Love it.
Maybe were there like actual like decorative plates that had like,
maybe,
like people in like fancy clothing on them?
I love the idea. I mean, I like assuming that that's the case, because the death of the China cabinet, for example, is a very sad thing that millennials killed off. So.
Yeah, a fashion plate can refer to a detailed illustration of fashionable clothing or a person who always wears the latest styles. It comes from color engraved plates.
What? All right, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but I really want to know more about why cultures decided that we needed to put fancy people on the things that we were eating off of. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I think the plates were made in early like magazines and papers, and so it was like the like printing plate. I don't know. Anyway, anyways,
fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I what I've come to sort of how I guess I've reconciled that is, as long as I'm dressing in things that I feel that I like and that I feel comfortable in, and not necessarily like trying to be some representation of what I think I need to be in a particular space. So, like the suit is like a classic conversation. Like if you're a professional, then you wear a suit and a tie and all of these things. Like sometimes I like wearing a suit and tie for an event that requires it, and I feel pretty and whatever if it fits well. But that idea of sort of like letting go of expectation and focusing more on sort of a demonstration of intentionality, to me is a way that I've reconciled like dressing for success, I guess, in the way that you put it.
I mean, a lot of, you started talking a little bit about class, and I think that to me that touches on like the root of why it's such like a messed up thing, like dressing for success, so to speak. Not necessarily dressing for success, but like everything that comes with, quote unquote, the way to dress professionally or acceptably. Because whenever there's professional and acceptable, we're actually throwing in classism, racism, misogyny, like all of that is baked into the word professional. Mm-hmm. That comes to the way speaking professionally, dressing professionally, having a space that is deemed respectable. All of that is inherent in there.
Gatekeeping, signaling.
Yes. And I think the worst part about it to me is how it teaches us to internalize an imagined better than us. Like, it reinforces the idea that whatever the successful version of us is not who or what we are now. Like, it reinforces the thought, A, that we are lacking in our current state, but B, whatever that future state is that we are trying to fit ourselves into, we're actually sort of reinforcing that thing into reality. We're allowing collectively to say that is what we all need to sort of protect and reify and like continue to make real. And so, before we were recording, one of the things we were talking about is drag, and like how I love the movie Paris is Burning. It's required viewing for everybody, but it does a really good job at a few different points of surfacing the actual like artistic insight that's at the root of drag, which is, and ball culture in particular, which is the thought that society says that people who are this way, whatever that way might be, cannot be the specific ball categories that they walk in, like everyday realness or executive realness. These are all categories that people walk in balls, and in balls you dress up in clothes and you walk and you perform as you're walking down a runway dressed up that way, and then you get scored based on how much you essentially pass or fulfill that role. And what's so cool about it is that it's obviously subverting and playing with like that being meaningful or valuable. Like, it's actually saying we get to decide what is passable or real or whatever just as much as dominant society does. The second thing it's doing is surfacing the fact that all of this is performance. All the executives that walk down, to their high-rise buildings are in drag just as much as a queen that you're seeing performing a number is. It's all a performance to signal something that they want to tell the world, what they're a part of and what they aren't a part of. And the reason that that's always stuck with me is because professionally, when I got into this line of work, there were days, and I probably talked about it in the podcast before, where I brought all of my clothing and dressing baggage that I learned after 12 years of Catholic school wearing a uniform, of how I was okay to show up in professional circumstances. All that baggage came with me until my first day that I had a meeting where I had to be at Spotify, Cadillac, and Anheuser-Busch in the same day. Those three companies have really disparate cultures. We're talking about luxury automaker that really focuses on the high end and craft and detail. We're talking a culture leading downtown like entertainment brand that's about real like leading edge culture. And then we're talking about the heartland of America, jeans and a t-shirt, like layback, anti-corporate, born from like farms, and like getting what am I thinking of? Like, not hay, but like rye, barley, all the things, malts that you're going to make into beer. Like, that's very much a factory culture almost. And sitting there and staring at my closet, trying to figure out how the hell do I contort myself to be accepted in all three of these spaces. That was the first time that I realized that my interpretation of dressing for success that I was taught in all those years of wearing uniforms was so terrible. Like, it erased my sense of self, and it erased my understanding of what you just said, Joey, which is like, wait, what's the expertise that I want to project?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want people to know me for, rather than just trying to chameleonize yourself to them when they're still gonna know, like, they're still gonna judge me for being a black dude when I walk in regardless. Like, that's not gonna change that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much of this, right, that when you look at how dress functions, both historically and currently, right, that this thing doesn't go away, although the norms change, but like historically it was a means of signaling in-group status within different contexts, right? Like construction workers dress this way, but even within that, it's like the plumbers dress like this and the electricians dress like this, like lawyers dress in this way, like white shoe law firms are coming from like a particular norm that was adopted within dress. Like the finance people dress this way, Silicon Valley people dress this way. Like, right, we talk about things like, you know, Patagonia zip up vests or things because they're like, those things become a means of signaling to other people in group status. And we do similar things with language, right? Like a lot has been written about sort of the ways in which like collegiate speech or collegiate English like serves as sort of a gatekeeping mechanism, where if you grow up in a family that is already speaking in that way, you have an advantage versus someone who doesn't, because the expectation is that to enter a professional workforce, you need to be able to speak in this way, and these are the specific norms, and that's a means of demonstrating your ability to exist in those cultures, right? And the result of that is this like archetyping in whether in fashion, in speech, in other behavioral norms, the model that you need to portray in order to be recognized as being allowed to be in any of those spaces. And I think a lot of what we're saying, and it is a convenience of being in the sort of professional environment that we are in, which you had said, of being like an outsider coming in to help solve a problem, gives you a certain amount of leeway in the expectation of like, you're not in our culture, but we're inviting you into our culture, and so you get some ability. Like, but what happens in that model is invariably what was the subversive thing becomes the norm thing, right? Like if you look at even in sort of the advertising world in the 90s, the subversive thing that they were doing was when they were going to a client presentation, instead of wearing a suit, they were wearing jeans and a blazer and a button down, which was like so much more casual than wearing like a full suit and tie situation. That was subversive. But then by the time we were coming into the professional world, we're like, this is like old and tired and whatever. And invariably now we're doing the old and tired things ourselves.
Of course.
But that idea of like portraying an archetype feels so restrictive and controlling and gatekeeping in a way that is self-defeating, that I think like philosophically I'm so like opposed to it on so many levels, that then like in some ways like I'm attempting to subvert norms, not with the expectation of portraying myself in a way of being like cool or successful or professional. I'm just like, I just don't like this norm. You know what I mean? But
yes. And I think that like, it's amazing the quiet acts of rebellion that we may or may not realize that we're engaging in. And I think that that's kind of what's tough, is that like, there are moments, like how many times have you been on a trip internationally and you find yourself in a situation where, you know, you need to dress a certain way for a thing. Like when we were in Italy this summer, we wanted to see the Vatican. And so we had to have shorts that went past our knees, and women could not have their shoulders showing, for example. And on one hand, yes, there's a part of me as a Catholic school child who's like, I'm going to wear my shorts. I don't care. I'm just going to do it. Like, rebel just for the sake of rebellion. But then there is also just like, why and what am I doing in this moment? Who is it serving? And what is it serving for me to like do that? Like, do I lose out on learning about this culture, for example, or interfacing with what they have, with making an adjustment? And I think it's they're all different circumstances and all different situations, but they all sort of parade around these challenges of like, what does it mean for us to deal with navigating difference? Like, and I think that what's subtly going on is like, what differences will be tolerated and what differences won't be tolerated? What differences are going to be seen as benefits and what differences are going to be seen as attacks or dangers? And I guess Rufio has a lot to add to this conversation. Yeah. So sorry about that. But then I think the other thing is that like when we are trying to, I guess, process all of that live in the moment, not everybody has the same stakes in it as well. Everybody has different things that are on the line for navigating those changes and those experiences. And I think that it's also like sometimes we're fighting just the existence of the boundary. Like, yeah. And I think that there is so much merit. That's what was meaningful to me. I give Sarah Gilbert, who gets called out at the end of every episode of Critical Nonsense, a lot of credit for teaching me this. Really thinking about the way I dress as what expertise do I want to bring wherever I go. And it just fundamentally changes the orientation to what power do I have that I am choosing to bring to any space, as opposed to how do I blend myself into any environment that I'm in. And respecting other cultures does not have to mean eliminating yourself. And I think that learning is, to me, the unlock to figuring out what, quote, dressing for success looks like. Recognizing that there are certain rooms that I shouldn't be in, that I don't want to be in, and that's okay.
I think that's the thing, is like we were saying before in our podcast, before the podcast, like the idea of you want to be respected, and so much of this conversation is about like the idea of like dress for success is ultimately about like dressing in a way in which you are receiving respect. And I think, right, like in attempting to demand respect, you also have to give respect. And that's where that culture point that you were talking about is coming in, is like not conforming to another culture that you don't either feel a part of or feel you belong in or even want to be a part of or belong in, but just as a demonstration of respect to someone who does belong in, whether it's a company culture or an industry culture or whatever it is like, I will respect this. And we were talking, right, if I'm having meetings with people from Japan, I recognize that like tattoos in a business setting are like just you don't see that there, and it is a distraction. And while I have tattoos and I like am happy to dress with not covering my tattoos, like when I like it's an interference to like us being able to have a conversation if I have short sleeves and visible tattoos. And so I just wear long sleeves. I still dress like myself. I'm not wearing suits or things like that, but I am doing enough to make sure that I'm not like impeding us from having a successful conversation in that moment. My goal is not to be Japanese or be part of Japanese business culture, but just to demonstrate that like I respect that you have a different culture than I do, and I will do enough to make sure that I'm not like insulting or interfering with us having a normal conversation that can be productive.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I also think that I love this example because it starts to like introduce how like huge and complicated all this is. Cause like, I'm a like cis, maybe straight passing man. Depends on if I've opened my mouth or not yet. I don't know. But like, there's so many things because a lot of this comes down to like others' perception. And like, if I were differently abled, how does that change whether someone is going to respect me the same way and my ability to mask those things or not, and whether or not I should mask those things? When it comes to gender, I mean, I wish that we had, I wish that we had more trans guests on the show. I wish they had guests on the show. Oh, yes, we've had guests on the show many times. But point being, like what others deem acceptable in terms of passing, to say nothing of, women who are assigned female at birth, dealing with makeup and dealing with like all the complications that come with how you should or should not dress in certain work environments, and how like the time tax and the monetary tax that comes with all those things. There's so many layers to the ways that identity presentation, dominant cultures, culture, and individual respect all sort of swirl around on this. And I guess I'm mentioning it because there are many books written on this, and it's a really complex sort of set of things that all manifest in this. And at the end of it, I do think that there's like universal benefit to fighting the difference. It's like what you said, like having an allergy or an innate reflex that says like, is using certain things to signal that I'm a part of your in-group the best thing for me? And asking that question actively and confronting it, that is powerful. That no matter what the context is, that's always going to be a path that leads you to greater success, I'd like to believe.
So Aaron, this brings us to Joey's shabby wrap-up corner. Shabby in that Joey is not always the best at wrapping up in the corners.
You're better than I am. Take us home.
But I'm gonna try and boil this down to what I think are two things that we're taking away from this conversation. I think one is, don't try to dress for success if success means being someone else. Be yourself, but be respectful of whatever culture. Not adopting or agglomerating or assimilating to another culture. Respecting the norms while being yourself. But two is, which I think has been a subtext of this conversation, is that we should be more open about allowing other people that are not inside of our cultures, whatever cultures we exist in, to present themselves if they are doing in turn the same thing of respecting the differences of our culture, but being able to represent themselves, right? Whether that is, you have for us, a client coming into our office that is coming from a different culture and dressing in a different way, like, being like, great, like you're doing a different thing than we're doing. I think both that attempt at respect and the openness and tolerance of differences, and that this probably applies to basically everything in all corners of our life.
Can I maybe put a PS, a postscript?
Yes.
Because you inspired me very deeply. Many norms are out to get you, but not all are. And I think that for me, at least, as someone who saw the term normal as such an offensive term, really being critical about what norms are fundamentally there or were rooted in things that are meant to rip me apart versus the ones that are just called, like, those are just like other people's practices and it doesn't impact me. Being critical about pulling those two things apart has set me free in a lot of places. So set your closet free. Liberate yourself via your closet. Or from your closet. I don't know. I'm switching it somewhere else. It's
Free
really
yourself.
Free your mind. That should have been how we opened this. Yes.
We did it.
We did it.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Veronica's Closet. I'm a sitcom from 1995 that only lasted a few seasons, and I only tangentially am related to this show. Goodbye. Messed that up.
I like that the show is personified.
God, I meant this episode and my brain couldn't get. Oh, I messed it. I messed it. Yep.
As always, we'd like to thank executive producer and smart suit Jess Vander.
Oh, and the tap dancing shoes to my Savion Glover sound engineer Alex Contel.
We'd like to thank that pair of jeans that fits just right, and our programming coordinator, Les Jacobs.
And, you know, I see them dressed in mock half zips pretty much every day that I interact with them. It is Amanda Medina. It is Amy Waters. It is Sarah Gilbert. It is Nora Mestrich. And it is Christy Jensen. So thank you for your style and support, production crew.
As always, thanks, Alen.
Thank you, Alen.
Special thanks to Mock Zips. Henley's.
Yeah. I have feelings about both of them, but no, I think it's important for them to exist. They have to walk so that I can run. That's fair. Yeah.
Thank you to clothes from designers that I wish I could wear, but I can't pull off either because swag or form. But I appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you, Highland Park, LA, for showing me what the youngins wear, and that I am no longer of the youngin cohort in that regard. Because
hello, fellow kids.
Yes, yeah, I am Steve Buscemi, and that's okay. That's just that's the season. That's the season that I'm in, and it's fine.
Lastly, thank you to the return of cozy season, sweater season, sweatpants at home.
Yes. You can see my hand waving, people who are listening, but I'm giving a lot of yes to that. Agreed.
Well, we did it.
We did it. Happy day to y'all. Love you, mean it.
Good morrow.
Bye.
Love you, mean it. Bye.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Shit. Sorry. Okay. My roof is leaking, and there is a roofer that has just showed up.
Okay. All right, I'm recording.
Okay. I may get interrupted one more time.
Fuck me. I've recorded this whole conversation without my headphones in.